Hey, lovely listeners, and welcome back to the Water Trio. I'm here with the lovely Kelly and Cassandra, and we are ready to deliver up all the astro juice for the 3rd of August until the 16th. It's quite a dynamic fortnight in the sky, lots going on, lots of shifts and changes, and we're already in the Mars mood because there's quite a lot of Mars going on this week. But Kel, I think you're kicking off, aren't you, honey, with the full moon in Aquarius and then
full moon in Aquarius. So this 2-week period starts with a bang because we do have that full moon in Aquarius, about 11 degrees on Monday the 3rd in Canada and the US. And I think it's hitting you guys overnight, like technically Tuesday the 4th in Australia.
Yeah.
But basically when we all go to bed on the night of the 3rd, the moon will be beautifully, visibly full. So it'll be full moon. It's not an eclipse, which is lovely. You know, we can have just like regular full moon energy. And normally the full moon in Aquarius, I think about as providing, a little bit of logic or a little bit of clarity or helping you get in touch with a rational point of view. There's 2 really interesting things about this full moon in Aquarius that I want to share with people and then hear what you gals think as well. The first one is that it's a full moon in Aquarius. And for those of us who are looking forward into the astrology of 2021, Aquarius is a really active sign in 2021. We're going to have both Saturn and Jupiter spending basically the whole year, except for a tiny bit, in Aquarius together. And so this full moon in some ways is providing a little bit of a preview and helping spotlight that Aquarius part of your chart, that Aquarius part of your life that is going to be really the main theme for you for 2021 because we'll have Saturn there and Jupiter there. So there is a sense of like pay attention to the ideas, the topics, themes. They may not all happen on the full moon day of August 3rd or August 4th, but it is letting you know what's coming up for next year. You know, you might like it, you might not love it. Just wait and, see. And we've had a taste of that with Saturn going into Aquarius from late March until very early July. So it's just another piece in that get to know your Aquarius house in your chart kind of process. And then, of course, the other thing that's much more immediate is that this full moon is quite tightly square Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is kind of stationary at 10 Taurus, and this full moon makes a very dramatic square angle to Uranus. So it does have that slightly chaotic, things coming out that are surprising or certainly revelatory that might even have a bit of a shock or an unexpected factor to it. In our personal lives, this can be exciting sometimes because it shakes things up and all of a sudden there's like new opportunities that weren't there. Collectively, it can be a little bit more dramatic because we see some of that unpredictable chaos, showing up at the leadership level and above. So it's one of those full moons that's going to clear the air or stir up the air, if you like. What are you girls thinking about this full moon?
Cass, love to hear some of your awesome Cassisms on this one.
Thanks, Lishi. I really do agree with some of your points around that, Kel. And I really, in particular, the insight that we may get moving forward with this full moon in Aquarius, and particularly because of the square to Uranus. So Saturn and Uranus squaring each other is a big key signature for next year. So, on the micro, any maybe turbulence or shakeups, or I need to sort of step away from a problem so I can look at it from a new angle. And I always think that the full moon gives us some light on a situation that, maybe we didn't see before, or maybe light that was activated sort of in that March through to like late June period where we had Saturn in Aquarius. The moon coming along and lighting up that little initial Saturn transit might give us a little bit of awareness or a bit more of a logical rather than an emotional sort of perspective around it that can give us that little bit of insight moving forward. And I think the key difference here is whatever was done then may need to be done differently now. So whether that's collectively, whether that's personally, and which can be a bit of a challenge for the fixed sign squares. There's that like ramming heads and, this is my way, that, I'm not changing my mind. It is an Aquarius full moon after all. But there may be that, Uranus, breakthrough moment. Here's a new perspective or something different that can help me move forward. But it is an aspect or a lunation that's like, being cool, calm and collected, rolling with the punches can help you kind of, move through this cycle at least. So what are your thoughts, Alicia?
I totally agree with what both of you are saying, and I don't really want to introduce anything new there. But I think, one of the things I'm noticing is that now that we have the new moons right at the end of the sign, the full moon's now in the next sign, or the next opposition. And what I'm seeing with the opposition between the moon in Aquarius, more the collective and the community, and the sun in Leo is, what is our individual needs as against what's our responsibility to the collective? We were having a bit of a chat about this in the pre-show, what do I feel? What do I need? But what do I have to be responsible to? Because I belong to something, whether it's a family, a community, a country, or a planet. So it's that sense of trying to find a real balance with that. And there's an opportunity to do it at the full moon level. So we kind of clear the slate. So we get to the new moon and we're ready to go into that space already well briefed, if that makes sense. It's like we've done the work under the full moon in that same axis so that we're ready with the new moon and we can really start fresh, start clean, but from a space of awareness. So with Uranus in the mix, we can unshackle ourselves a bit, break down those thoughts and ideas of who we have to be and what do we really need to be ourselves. Does it have to be all these things? And what kind of community do we want to belong to and who do we want to be within it? So, yeah, they're my thoughts anyway.
It's such a great piece how, Aquarius does highlight the collective or that sense of connection to other. And it is going to be something we're all exploring so much more next year, like that interrelationship between Sun in Leo, like the I or the individual, versus that full moon in Aquarius of community or connection. Like, what are the interface points between you and community? What are the communities that you belong to? Do you even know what they are? And then how do you want to interact with community, I guess?
Yep, totally. So from here, where do we go?
Lots of coming out. But in terms of our show right now, I think we're going to go in a bit of a planets on the move piece.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot happening now.
Yes, there is. There is a lot happening now. So I think first off, there's Mars square Jupiter, which is what I'm doing.
Pardon, Leash. Yeah, you're going to tell us about your favourite aspect. This time frame.
I don't know if it's my favourite. It's my favourite of it's my favourite of the Mars squares coming up. So this is happening at late on Tuesday night here in Australia. It'll be Tuesday everywhere in the world, and I just get this sense of Mars in Aries. He's out there, he's fighting, and then he comes up against, and Jupiter's the first of the planets in Capricorn that he's going to square. And it's almost like it's kind of the nicer of the ones that he's going to come up and meet against, that he's going to push against. It's like if you've got to push against any planet in Capricorn first, let it be Jupiter rather than Pluto and Saturn, which he'll get to next. But I always get a sense with this is it's like we're getting carried away and getting overly enthusiastic and being, in our sense of being pulled one way or in another direction. There's just so much energy between these two planets. I mean, yes, Jupiter's in Capricorn, but he's still Jupiter. He still expands and grows. So he might be telling Mars, hey, slow down a bit, go in this direction. But his energy is being fueled by Mars as well. And there's just a sense, I think, with this of fighting for our belief systems or fighting against the belief systems of others. What is it, that others believe about structures or about, hierarchies or about power systems that are in place? And where do you want to really push against that or feel like you're getting frustrated because others aren't hearing your point of view on these circumstances? So it can be I do think that there is a possibility for flare-ups here and misunderstandings, and it's coming to that point of going, am I being realistic here, or am I totally driven by my belief in a certain paradigm or a certain way of thinking? And is it really informed by the truth? Let's get back to facts here. Let's get back to the truth here, rather than, just, well, I believe this, so it must be true kind of thing. But yeah, what about you guys? Any thoughts on this?
Cass?
I love how we always hesitate.
Always like, who's going to go next?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with this aspect, I think, I love your points, Leash. But also, I guess one thing from a technical perspective here is that Jupiter receives Mars into its exaltation with this. So this kind of gives, Mars maybe a little bit of extra oomph here, a little bit like a fuel to the fire. And just in recent client work, it's, as an astrologer, it has been a little bit, I wouldn't go so far as to say tricky. It's like, well, here's the planets and here's the possibilities, but they've got this COVID thing, that's kind of changing all our lives right now. And so I think this aspect can perhaps, potentially fire up your enthusiasm for the future. Okay, this is the reality now. All of this, whatever it is, we're still kind of figuring it out. And we can maybe Mars is kind of adding fuel to the practical realities, but not losing our sense of hope or optimism for what's possible, but just with the restriction of Capricorn there. But maybe help us, because we've all kind of been a little bit maybe, for want of a better word, a little bit deflated with some of the things. Really, whose 2020 has turned out the way they planned? It has been a little bit of a, there's been pluses for many people and also massive minuses. But I think with this, it's like, okay, well, we can still look onwards and upwards and maybe just get a little bit more passionate or dynamic or a little bit of fuel to the fire around what's possible. Even if those possibilities are still with a bit of a limit or a boundary or this thing called COVID that we just don't know, we can't really use the Jupiter analogy in travel and expansion in quite the same way. So, but I like it for, that Mars adding the fire to hope and optimism and what's possible for the future, even though it's not maybe a tangible reality right now. You can't go and book that airfare right now, but we can start to really fire up our desires around it or, what we want and dream for the future. Jupiter and Capricorn, maybe save a little bit more money and, fly first class instead or have a better hotel room or whatever the thing is. So I guess, here's me just trying to be all Miss Jupiter about it. But yeah, I think Mars and Jupiter, Mars is already in dignity and also got dignity in the Capricorn piece. So there is some hope there, I think, and can be productive, but not in the way that we would normally see productivity. It might be more imaginative or dreaming up a future goal or possibility here and maybe doing the smaller steps to make it happen.
Yeah, I am pretty pro this aspect too. Even though it's technically a square, so there's that sort of effort or maybe slightly missing but getting most of what you're aiming at kind of thing. I do still see it as and certainly of all the things Mars is doing this month, this is one of two things that I would consider to be kind of decent for Mars. And some of the keywords that are coming up for me are about strategy. So that idea of strategic planning for the long term. I do think there's a mix with this aspect of what is that kind of larger plan that you're working towards, and then what are the actions that do need to be taken, in the present. And for instance, for me, I would love to get back to running again, but I have to just start by doing some lunges every day and climbing up hills or stairs, just to build some strength into the right muscles before I could even think about running, just to give you how the short term leads to the long term. So, and so I do think, that Mars, Jupiter, there's some strategic planning or visioning, and it's kind of grounded because Jupiter is in Capricorn. And then there are things that can be done in the short term that will lead us towards that. The caution that I have for this is exaggeration, where anytime Mars gets a dose of Jupiter, Mars can be like, yeah, I can do all the things. And so I think there is this sort of, you might slightly like overpromise, or you might slightly overestimate what you can do. There's that sense of like stretching a little too far. One thing with Mars Jupiter, I think he does make us think about the future. He does remind us that there will be a time, I don't know if I want to say after COVID, or there will be a time when things are not as restrictive as they are now, when it's less fearful and you're more able to move forward. And what do you want that to be like? And Cass, to your point, there is something about making plans, but based on this updated set of priorities that may have emerged for people based on what's gone on this year. You know, instead of trying to do all these things, it might have helped you really hone in on actually this one thing is what's important. Because once you get a sense of that, then everything can just be in support of that. But until you get that kind of heart of the matter, you can be like you're going about things the long way, not realizing it. So there is that planning with the new priorities. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me this aspect is happening in the same 24-hour window as the full moon, because I think it's just going to feel really big between the full moon square Uranus and Mars square Jupiter. It's going to be a lot that happens really quickly. Some of it's going to be great in terms of bringing opportunities, and some of it's going to be a little of that surprising, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that, and then just how we navigate that. And I think part of the Mars Jupiter is saying, there is a way forward here. And if you have that why, which is what Jupiter's about, if you have a sense of either what your priority is or where you get meaning, it's going to help you navigate. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited for this one. I mean, Mars is doing some other stuff this month I'm not excited about, but Mars Jupiter, I sort of look forward to what big things I might be interested, what big mountain am I going to be preparing to climb, for instance.
I like what you're saying, both of you, and it kind of reminds me, we've talked about netball before. It reminds me of this netball coach I used to have. We had this one who was, she was really full on, and if we made a mistake in the game, she'd yell at us and we'd like all feel really down and flat, and we'd get to the end of a game, we wouldn't want to go to training. And then we had this new netball coach come in, and she was so like, okay, you made a mistake. And we'd get to the end of the game and then she'd like, let's sit down, let's talk about this, let's find out where the mistakes were made, why we made them, and let's strategize towards how we can do better in the next game. And the way she talked to us, it was almost like mistakes don't cost you anything. You know, you can learn from them and use them as a way to pivot into something new. So that she really inspired us and lifted us up and excited us, and we ended up winning that year. So it was that kind of thing, what you were both saying, you know, about strategy and about long-term planning and being hopeful and optimistic still. I just thought, oh yeah, I can't even remember that netball coach's name, but there you go.
I love it. So it's like the debrief. It's doing the discussion and the reflection so that your actions after that can have a bit more thought or awareness or understanding around them.
And having that hopefulness for the future, though, that, you know, this is going to make us better. This is going to help us grow. This is going to help us aim towards something higher.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, ultimately Jupiter wants to help whatever situation it's involved in. And, you know, you had this other coach that kind of did that in Mars, which is a sporting planet. So, you know, that's quite a, like, so, you know, I don't know if you've got any sporting goals, this could be a good aspect to help you integrate, you know, whatever's going on. So, Kel, like, start doing those hill sprints.
I know. I mean, I'm also thinking, though, I know, because Cass and I were talking, I was on our WhatsApp chat, and this is usually a conversation that Cass chimes in about fitness. And, you know, I'm so excited. Cass is talking about lifting however many kilos of weights. And I'm like, I've just started doing lunges again. So it's like very minor, but a step in the right direction.
Like, good Kel.
But also I'm also thinking about my personal chart, and like Mars in Aries for me is second house, so cash flow and income. And I'm also thinking about the role that money plays in my life. You know, how do I want to use money to kind of live the type of life that I want, and the relationship between time and money and freedom and responsibility. Like, there are some of those deeper personal reflections. I think if you do think about, well, what is Aries for me? You know, is it 5th house of children? Is it 7th house of relationships, or 10th house of career? And that this Mars square Jupiter can be about not just what you're doing now, but where do you want it to take you? And we often say we don't like things, or I'm frustrated by this, you know, like there was a long time where I was like, I can't pay my credit card off each month and it annoys me. And it's like, well, what was I doing that was contributing to that? And, you know, it's trying to get a sense of, well, do you really want that? And what are you prepared to do in support of that?
Yeah. When Jupiter first moved into Capricorn, I don't know if I wrote a blog post or did a webinar, whatever, but I called it Reframing Jupiter. And, you know, I think when we think about Jupiter and what our beliefs are, you know, it could be, you know, whether that belief is around your money, or whether that belief is around your relationships, or, you know, a whole ton of things. You know, Mars can help, you know, be that driving force. Okay, well, I'm frustrated because, you know, Jupiter's still in Capricorn, is pretty frustrated. It's not very happy there. Mars in, you know, pure Aries can be that driving force that can reshape your belief, or reframe that belief that's been limiting or restricted, or holding you back in some way. So then, you know, Jupiter can be that helpful or supportive planet. So, you know, and I really love when, I guess you can't quite ignore the Saturn piece there because Jupiter's in Saturn's sign, but when they come together in this way, you know, this may be, you know, our sense of why or purpose or belief, but, you know, if you haven't achieved a dream or a goal that's very important to you, then, you know, Mars can help inspire you to take the daily actions and the daily disciplines to then get to that higher goal or that higher purpose thing. So I think they can really work together, but with the fire of Mars and the exaggeration, or like, you know how we in Australia, we call them buoys, you know, in the ocean, that kind of like where
the buoy.
And I think Americans call them buoys.
Yeah.
You know, Mars can help, you know, light up our buoys. Sounds so weird. But anyway, you know, it helps just to inflate us and light our fires a little bit again, and help maybe reshape the beliefs or things if we've got a little bit stuck in that Capricorn space in our life. So it might be taking action in one area can help us, you know, reframe or, you know, get more hope or enthusiasm or achieve that dream or goal where the Capricorn piece is. So again, connecting with your Aries Capricorn houses is going to be your insight into how that works.
Yeah, lots to chew on. I feel like that's almost a segue there around. So speaking of moving forward and looking into the future, there are also 2 planets on the move this week.
There are, thank God. Away from retrograde territory.
Yeah, it's like a fresh new world. A whole new world. Yeah, I did
You
that.
sing for us, Cass. So
We're getting into the singing lately. Like, what is up with
what's going on?
I don't know. It's late at night.
Actually, that works well for Mercury and moving into Leo. Let's perform.
Yeah, so it's like, before we go into what it all means, which planets are changing signs and where are they going and when is it all happening?
So we've got Mercury moving into Leo on Wednesday the 5th. So that's 1:30 here in Australia. So it's probably late on the 4th in the US?
Yes,
it's on the 4th, yes.
Yeah. And then Venus moving into Cancer, on the 8th, Saturday the hour. So it's going to be Friday the 7th in most places. So there'll be lovely Venus day. But here it's very early, like 1:21 a.m. in Australia. So yeah.
So we're kind of like breaking out of that territory that we've been in for since April now. So this is pretty big, you know. It's, you know, still they're not aspecting each other, but just breaking through new ground, you know, all in the aftermath of an Aquarius full moon square Uranus. So it's quite interesting how this is all kind of happening with this period. So Yeah, I just kind of like interjected there. So
No, perfect. I mean, yeah, Venus has been in Gemini since early April. So the Venus
Yep.
theme has just been locked in really since the start of the lockdown for many of us. And so it's nice to see her changing, moving into Cancer. Venus is a little bit more comfortable in water signs generally, just with the triplicity strength there. So that's it's I think it's going to soften things, but also really highlight the people and the connections and the communities or the families where you get that sense of belonging, or you can create that sense of belonging for the people that you love. So it's quite a mood shift from Venus in Gemini, which is, very chatty and very kind of externally oriented, to Venus in Cancer, which is much more internally oriented, much more protective, much more nurturing, more of that classic sort of caretaking, if you like, with Venus in Cancer.
Yeah, watch the conversations turn from beauty products to food.
Food
with
and
Venus in
families.
Cancer.
Yes.
Yes.
For
And I'm
sure.
also thinking Venus in Cancer, this is finally, the eclipses have ended here. Things are getting easier in this Cancer territory. And she's coming and bringing her coolness and her joining and her balm of healing to this area of our chart. I mean, I'm really excited about it because quite literally I'll be getting the keys to my new house a few days later, and this is in my fourth house. So I'm looking forward to bringing some beauty, some love, and some better connection in a new place, in a new area of my chart that has been, while it's been exciting and new with the North Node in there, it's like I'm just ready to settle down in this place a bit more. I'm ready to see some ease and pleasure and love and, all those Venus words of connection. I'm hoping this new house will actually help my family gel a bit more together. And also will bring a new client space for me to be able to work out of too. So I'm thinking of all the pretty things. I've been flicking through the IKEA catalogs, how can I do the Venusing in this area of my chart. So I guess for everybody, and it's like, okay, where is in Cancer does this lie in your chart, and how can you bring some beauty there? How can you do the Venus vibes a bit more?
Totally. Yeah, I think the first sort of 3 weeks of Venus in Cancer, she's got the freedom to do Venus in Cancer things. And then at the end of her stay, she has a few gnarly encounters, but with her aspects to Saturn and Pluto. But that's not till the very end of the month. So we have plenty of time to, make our homes more comfortable, or try to repair or even connect with family members if that's appropriate and safe for people to do. And then Mercury, he's been in Cancer since early June, I think, 2 and a bit months, which is a long time for Mercury to be in one place. And so that change into Leo, I think one of you said singing, just being more expressive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I like Leo, Mercury moving into Leo, it can be, Mercury in Leo, it's a mute sign, so it's kind of this juxtaposition between.
Hang on, Cancer was mute.
It's what is the term? I forgot.
For Leo being.
No, Leo, it's like it's
feral,
something.
isn't it?
It's a term, feral. Yeah, that's the word. I was like bestial, feral. I couldn't quite remember.
Actually, it's both. It's both of those.
Things. So I mean, sometimes when Mercury's in Leo, people. There can be a time where you just blurt it out, the filter between brain and tongue just becomes a little bit non-existent, not in a Mercury retrograde way, but it's almost like this pure type of, I'm just going to say what I have to say, and however it falls on the ears of others is kind of not my concern. It's kind of I find it can be a little bit rogue. And of course, with Mercury being in mute retrograde Cancer for this period of time, for a really long time, I think this shift from Cancer to Leo will be quite noticeable in terms of just voices out there, opinions flying, new facts coming through, data. There's just going to be so much more, and it could be kind of almost whoa, after things being really muddled with in Cancer and with the retrograde phase as well. So there may be kind of all that being said, Mercury in Leo can also be pure words or words that are good-hearted or well-intentioned or generous or over the top. It might almost be going from like one extreme to another in a certain way as well. But I find it's be vibrant, and Mercury just kind of just putting that voice out there. It's like, here, give me that microphone, whether you want to hear what I have to say or not. So I think that'll be exciting. Yeah.
It's a really good point, Cass. Yeah, that Mercury just wants to say it loud, say it proud, and it can be a little bit almost primal in that sense. It's not the most logical sign, if you like.
Yeah.
But I love that warm-heartedness, like that idea of expressing the goodness or attempting to express some of that wisdom of the solar kind of energy, which we do get to encounter with planets in Leo.
Because like Mercury in Cancer for such a long period of time, it's, I'm trying to like define my emotion or define my feelings, where that's not easy for Mercury. Whereas now it's like, I'm just kind of going to say it, like whether it, but not feeling sensitive or reactive to how that lands. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for people.
A little bit more clarity with expression, I think.
With the fire too, yeah.
Leash,
There's a
sorry.
bit more
I feel like we're like trying to jump in.
I said my piece about Venus in Cancer, but I just feel like there's a more confidence with this. There is this natural confidence with Leo, whereas, you're trying to marry emotions and thoughts together. Like you were saying, Cass, it's like, oh, I feel like this about that, I think. Whereas this is like, this is me, I think, therefore I am kind of territory. So, I'm excited about it. And it's this is Mercury, getting closer and closer to the sun. He's past his retrogrades. He's starting to play catch up again too. His speed's getting forward and he's in a fire sign. So there's just that, I don't know, that ability to think better rather than have to emote about everything as well.
Yeah,
we've seen.
That's a really good technical point, Leash, because there is something too about having Mercury and the Sun in the same sign that, Mercury is ultimately a spokesperson for the solar staff, and sometimes that message can come through a little bit more clearly or directly when Mercury and the Sun are in the same sign.
Yeah.
You see that in people's birth charts. If you are someone who has Mercury and the Sun in the same sign versus somebody who has Mercury and the Sun in different signs, it's not to say one's better than the other. It's just a difference in expressiveness or focus or even topics of interest.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So, Cass, I think
we're
you're
going out
coming
with a
up,
bang,
you're rounding out the week. Yes. With the Sun trine Mars.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with a friend today, which is sort of like election hunting for the next few weeks for him. And I was like, what about that Sun-Mars thing, And I think the Sun in its ruling sign, Mars in its ruling sign, hot, dry planets, hot, dry signs. Like this is positively combustible, I think. And it can be totally productive. I just see like, if you've been kind of dragging your heels with something or, whatever the situation is, this is going to really kind of, fire you up. It's going to be very, decide and do it, Mars and the Sun together. Like this is kind of this very hot energy where, nothing's going to hold you back. If you've got something to do or something to be or whatever the thing is, like this is just very supportive energy to help you, get energy, mojo and momentum. The fact that they're in their own signs, this is just such a lovely kind of flowing aspect that might help you, like when I think about Mars, like you're on a mission, there's something to do or there's something to achieve or something to like, almost like a to-do list. It's a bit like a soldier just kind of like going, keeps on going until like a big sort of, solar thing is achieved or attained or there's a certain level of visibility. So I think this aspect together is going to be quite energizing, quite enlivening, and it's like if there's been procrastination around something or just feeling kind of 2020 heavy, on a personal level, this could be really good, but on a collective level, I think there could be, when I said combustible, I think there is that potential that, things could really kind of get very hot or heated around this time as well. So, yeah, there's a few ideas around this one. What about you girls?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I love it too. I'm really excited for it because I think all the things you're saying, Cass, like the heat, the energy, this can translate into decisiveness or enthusiasm or motivation, like a willingness to tackle a challenge, to make a choice, to take that action that is going to move something forward. It's kind of like the last great thing for Mars before he slips into the station and the square to Saturn, which is going to flavor so much of late August and September. And so Mars is already starting to slow down a little bit in terms of his speed or his pacing, but he really does get a boost from the sun. And the sun, is happy to take a little bit of energy from Mars. Like it's a nice interaction, if you like. The sun is exalted in Aries where Mars is. The sun's in Leo anyway. Like there's a real sense of sort of dignity, maybe even this regal kind of, it's okay for you to be the queen or king or, some kind of non-binary iteration of being the regal person in your own life. It's okay to set your standards and to take action accordingly. It's okay if somebody else doesn't want to do exactly what you want to do, but that shouldn't stop you kind of shining or blossoming or creating progress and momentum in your life. So all the things you're saying, Cass, I completely agree with. And I think just enjoy that kind of radiant celestial fire, the divine inspiration that can spark, that connection to wisdom, like your own inner wisdom, or even a really beautifully wise and inspiring experience from a teacher or from someone else. Take that in, while you can. The sun is very close to the end of its annual, tour through Leo. So it's nice to take in all of that beautiful heat and to be decisive. I think if you've got to make a decision or you've got to take an action that you're a bit nervous about, this could be a nice time to kind of pick up some of that cosmic heat. What about you, Leash? I know you're a very Marsy kind of gal, but not the fire version of Mars, like the water version.
Yeah. Look, I agree. I love so much about what you both said, and I think the only thing I want to add in is the courage piece for this, because I always see the sun and Mars together as courage. And I use this quote, this Winston Churchill quote, in my blog this week, and I want to say it out loud on here, but it says, just because I'm thinking about how this relates to COVID.
Yeah.
And how it relates to also Black Lives Matter and the social constructs that we're in right now that may feel like they're keeping us trapped and may feel like we don't have the courage to do anything because so much is feeling we can't, or that we're trapped, or that the future's so uncertain, we don't know what to do. But this is a Winston Churchill quote. He said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, and courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." And I just really loved that about this piece. It's like wherever you need to feel courage around right now. So whether that's facing the future and what the reality of that is, whether it's taking some steps, like you guys were saying, some bold new steps, some exciting new ideas of where we want to go. Or it is that sitting down and listening, not putting yourself forward, allowing somebody else to take that place, because the sun in Leo is about leadership too. So where can we have the right kind of leadership right now that is courageous leadership? And courageous leadership can actually be delegating well and standing to the back and leading from behind rather than being the one that drives from the front. A good noble person, queen or king, whatever you want to call it, they will be the person that knows, when to stand at the front, when to stand beside, and when to ride behind. So I really feel like this is very much about getting to the core of things, sun in Leo, to work out where we need to energize, to drive, to cut away what doesn't fit, what's not real, and have the courage to move forward to what we want. So that was my I just loved that quote when I found it.
Beautiful.
Yes, isn't it? Yeah. Good old Mr. Churchill.
Winston Churchill. I mean, and courage and leadership are two really great words for this aspect as well. So I think those concepts of what does leadership mean for you? What does courage mean? Because as you said, sometimes courage means slowing down and listening. Sometimes courage means taking action. I mean, this aspect with so much fire, it feels like everyone's going to want to do something. Like it feels like we're going to want to either be physically active or to be kind of creating that sense of movement. But I like the piece about courage being individually defined, basically, because sometimes courage can mean so many things to each of us depending on our specific circumstances.
Yeah. I guess, it's even being active on somebody else's behalf. In that kind of way. Like I've been listening to some awesome podcasts lately who've been interviewing Indigenous or Aboriginal Australians and their points of view. And it's just them having the platform and these voices in this whole new way and being interviewed. I've loved it. And it just kind of reminds me of that. It's like getting active, but in a leadership way that allows others to have a voice as much as us. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do see that a lot with Mars aspects and placements in astrology is that it is actually a placement I see in some clients' charts or even well-known activists, Mars can be the advocate and the activist, who is going to fight on behalf of somebody who, for whom it is hard to fight for themselves, if you like. And
it can be very altruistic.
Yes.
Fighting for the underdog.
Yeah, the fighting for the underdog kind of placement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going out with a bang. There's 2 weeks.
It is.
Because that
exciting.
aspect, I don't know if we said the details. It's 24 Leo, 24 Aries on August 16, which will be August 17 in Australia.
It's like 1 past midnight here on the East Coast.
It's basically that Sunday.
16.
So it's interesting to have a big sun aspect on a Sunday, if you like. Yeah.
And I think because we don't talk about it in this episode, but it's nice, like we'll have Mars square Jupiter, then Mars square Pluto in the, on the 13th. And then we have this lovely, the sun's kind of coming and juicing back up Mars after he's had that tense aspect with Pluto as well. It's kind of like a nice end to the Marsy week. So, yeah.
Yes.
So talking about ends, what have you gals got coming up over this fortnight? Anything? I'm sure you both do.
Oh,
I know it's a while ahead.
I know. I've got things in the pipeline and I guess to be announced. I'll have a webinar online later this month, again, to be announced because we're a little bit in advance. But yeah, if you want more details or if you want to join the Golden Circle, my subscription, there's all the details there on the website too. So there's always plenty of classes and back catalogues and things like that to check out if you want to learn more.
Cool.
Kel? Yeah, I've got my next webinar that is being hosted by Astrology University. That's happening on Saturday, August 15. It will be on 12th house planets. So I'm going to give a little bit of info about the 12th house, building on the webinar I did earlier this year that was really popular and well received. But I'm actually going to go through each planet in the 12th house. So just talk a little bit and show a couple of examples about what is this planet, in the 12th house about, or how might you see it? Obviously, I can't speak to every nuanced iteration of that, but at least to give you some keyword concepts to get started and also some technical tips about the kind of process that you can follow to even go further with planets in the 12th house. So that's coming up August 15. And of course, the early bird rate to sign up is available it's certainly available the week starting August 3. So if you're interested in that, the other thing I'll have is a members-only Q&A for my membership, which I think is actually Friday the 14th of August. And so for my monthly subscribers, you'll be able to join that. If you're not a subscriber and you'd like to be, you can find out info about how to sign up on my homepage at kellysastrology.com. Basically, the first half of August I'm on holidays, but I'm coming back with a few things mid-month, which I'm excited about.
Awesome. Excellent. And what about you, Leisha?
Yeah, Leisha, what have you got?
Well, I'm moving house in that time.
Oh, of course.
I'm trying to work out if I'm going to be a glutton. Usually I have a webinar on that first Thursday, so I'm trying to work out if I'm going to be a glutton for punishment and hold one. So I will, make sure you're on my email list. I'm thinking I might do one on working with your intuition and energetic hygiene because I've had a few clients asking about that.
And you might do it on August 6th when the moon is conjunct Neptune.
Yes.
It's kind of appropriate
Yes.
for the topic.
Yes, very. Actually, I hadn't noticed that. Yes, Kelly. So it looks like I'll probably have to do that
There's
in
your
my 12th
sign.
house. So
There you go.
I guess I'm doing that. And but also we're talking a lot about Mars this week. So I do have that Mars retrograde webinar where I'm talking about Mars retrograde, these aspects we've talked about with Mars this week, not that one with the Sun, but with Jupiter and Pluto will be repeated over the next few months as it goes back and forward in this area of our charts. So if you want to know more about it and get into that, you can hop online onto my website and download it.
Fantastic.
So
Excellent.
thanks,
Awesome.
gals. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone, for listening.
Thanks
Like,
for-
subscribe, put a
Yeah,
comment.
all the things.
I'm like, we're
I like
all
all that.
talked out now, aren't we?
We don't. With Mars, we've done. We've been.
We're done.
We've
We're
conquered.
like,
we're
yeah.
done. Over.
Okay, got the t-shirt. Going home now. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks for all the awesome comments. Keep them coming.